Hello there, Magma Infinity here once again, and today I just wanted to talk about a film that I don't think is getting a lot of recognition. Not a lot of people are talking about it, so I thought I'd contribute to the discussion and talk about it myself. Of course, you've seen it in the title. It's the movie The Death of Dick Long, which I think is the funniest film of the year. That's why I put it in the title, because I do think it is the funniest film of the year, and also it's just a great baity title, you know, because any hipsters are coming in and being like, really funniest film of the year? We'll see about that. I do not concur with that statement. So, I mean, it attracts, you know, all kinds of people to watch it. That's what I'm hoping for, because I like views. But anyway, this is from the director of Swiss Army Man, Daniel Scheinert. He directed Swiss Army Man, which of course is a film that appeals to anyone's fighting fetish. But firstly, let's just say The Death of Dick Long does have a significantly lower budget than Swiss Army Man, of course. You can see that in the cast as well. We don't have many kind of like well-known actors like Daniel Radcliffe. Honestly, it's a great film to watch, just to see how they manage that low budget that they do have, because this is an A24 distributed film, which of course is a great studio, even though they do botch many of their releases, especially when it comes to, you know, other countries. A24 though, man, is just a great studio. Like, this year has been a great year for them. I'd probably say The Death of Dick Long is probably one of the better films they've distributed from this year, which is, you know, saying a lot considering, you know, they got The Farewell, they got Midsommar, they got The Lighthouse, which I've not yet seen, but I've heard great things. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it, okay? The film, The Death of Dick Long, which again is a great title. Yes, I know, it's just, I mean, the porn parody just practically writes itself, let's be honest. But yeah, the film itself revolves around this situation that it's kind of similar to like a Fargo thing, right? Where it's a very dire situation where the characters are trying to cover it up, but of course the main characters are pretty damn stupid. Like, it is a factory of stupidity in here. And that's where a lot of the comedy comes in.
Wait. Anonymity. Book it.
But despite being a comedy, there's also quite a lot of suspense in this, okay? Because there's a lot of mystery around Dick's actual death, which of course Richard Long, that's his full name. There's a lot of mystery around Dick's death in here, and the reveal itself is pretty crazy. And depending on your sense of humour, you'll either be laughing out loud, or will just be pretty disturbed and just being like, what the fuck is this? You know, very uncomfortable. This movie's very strange. You think you know what's going on, but you do not know what's going on. It comes out of nowhere and it just happens, and you're like, okay. Yeah, so without giving anything away, I will say this is a very strange but very funny film, okay? And I know comedy is subjective, but still, you can tell what makes a good joke in a film, okay, and what doesn't. Like, to me, yes, I find this film funny, but even if you don't find this film funny, I mean, you can at least acknowledge it's, you know, more funnier than a film like that was an example from the 2015 film Minions on bad comedy. It's just not funny at all, okay? Even if you laughed at that, you should probably feel ashamed of yourself, because, I mean, it's just nonsense, gibberish, not funny. So I want to show you an example of what I think is good comedy, you know, using some subtlety, using comedic timing, you know? And that's from the film Shaun the Sheep, also came out the same year as Minions, but yeah, didn't make as much money as Minions, sadly. Honestly, I'm not even going to lie, this whole video is just a front. I've just used this video as a reason to just promote Shaun the Sheep, the movie. It's a great movie, you should watch it. It probably sounds like I'm joking, but actually I do love this movie. It's amazing. Yeah, check it out. Anyway, yeah, back to the topic of the video. I will definitely say something about the tone that I do think is a weakness is probably just some of the tonal, aspects about the opening sequence. The opening doesn't kind of fit the whole movie tonally. It just feels very weird. But once that's over, and once you actually get into the film and what it's going for, it gets really good, because I think that opening sequence, accompanied with the actual film score, its own composition, those are definitely the worst aspects about the movie. But what is one of the best aspects about the movie is definitely the writing. I've already made the comparison before to Fargo, but yeah, this is really pretty much like a southern Fargo of really dumb rednecks or hillbillies, just white trash overall. But the thing is, what makes this work with these characters is the fact that the characters don't feel like an over-exaggeration of southern culture. They actually feel like people, and when you can actually balance that, because a lot of the comedy does derive from the characters' stupidity, them being, hillbillies. The thing is, if you can make that feel somewhat real and not just we're just playing on stereotypes here, and completely takes you out of this film's universe, then that's really impressive from a writing standpoint. And that's what I really love about this film, because again, the characters feel like real people. And also, what really does add to these characters being so great is, of course, the people, portraying them, the cast itself. Although I've already mentioned before, it is a relatively unknown cast. It does kind of feel like a lot of the actors they did get are probably from an Alabama area somewhere. But even though this is a relatively unknown cast, all the actors are great in their performances, and even the smallest characters manage to be pretty funny, so a lot of care is taken to who's playing who. And they got for example, a really minor character that shows up is the Doctor character, who was actually portrayed by, I gotta pull up the name, this is very unprofessional, Roy Wood Jr., who is an American comedian actually, does a lot of stand-up. He plays the Doctor character, he's only in 2 scenes, but even then, he is really funny, okay? And personally, Earl is my favourite character in this. Some of the best scenes, I think, come from him. He's definitely the funniest, in my opinion.
Earl, Turtle Bar. The S has hit the fan, okay?
What?
The S. The S.
I don't know what you're spelling, dude.
The fucking S, man. What? Just come over ASAP. All right, baby.
Me?
Sweetheart.
Did you just call me sweetheart?
But the main character that we are pretty much throughout the film following is Zeke, and he is great too as well. Because there's a lot of scenes where there's evidence, building up against Zeke, and he's trying to lie his way through it, but the thing is, he's really bad at lying.
How did he die?
He fell on a table saw. He got shot by a hunter. Alcohol poison. Fuck.
He's just trying to figure out, what do I say, what do I do? And that's, again, it's suspenseful, because, he's oh god, what are you saying, man? But, again, a lot of comedy derives from those interactions. And I will say, towards the end, the tone definitely does shift more seriously, and that initial shift is very sudden. It doesn't feel smooth, because they're a movie, if you want to have a serious and comedic tones in your film, you can definitely achieve that. It's just that the shift needs to be more smooth. You need to segue more naturally into it. You can't just have it kind of be a sudden thing. That's definitely another complaint about the movie, I'd say. But overall, this is just a great time. I definitely recommend it. And if you're not sold, I will tell you that Nickelback is involved in the movie in some capacity. And yeah, I think that's all I need to say. So yeah. Hello there, Magma Infinity here, once again, and there are a few things I actually did want to mention, so this is my editing, self-correcting my past self and not making these notes earlier on in the video and mentioning them, so here I am just mentioning a few things, and also it's just a great opportunity for me to just make the video longer, because I do like longer videos. When a video has a double digit on the runtime, that just makes me feel good, it makes me feel good about myself. One thing I wanted to mention in particular is about the cinematography. I really should talk about that. And honestly, it looks very bland. There isn't really any visual flair or personality in the overall presentation of the film, which is a big shame, because as I mentioned, the writing is so good that it really does warrant some really good cinematography, some camera work to go along and coincide with it. And I'm not saying every comedy film needs to be like Edgar Wright levels of kind of, you know, creativity of all these crazy whip pans and all this visual language coming up. Because of course, no, that'd be crazy expectations from, you know, every director. We want some, you know, distinctions, some personalities to make every one of these a bit more distinct and not just the same thing over and over again. All I'm saying is just some creativity to make the film stand out more, because I mean, if you do look at these like film clips I'm showing without no audio, without no context, it doesn't really look special. I mean, just looking by these clips, you can't really tell it is a comedy film. It just looks like another low-budget indie film with how it's just presented, and I think that's very disappointing, really, because I think with an even greater presentation, this film might get a more bigger, larger audience if it just didn't look so bland, which, again, is a shame, but I mean, that is how it is. And also, secondly, this is just more of a technical thing and just something I've realised is, I did mention earlier that the cast is relatively unknown, but there is actually one actor in the cast especially that is actually quite, probably the most recognisable member, because she's been in a lot of stuff, and that's Sarah Baker, who actually does play the police officer. And I mean, if you just look at her IMDb, she is in a lot of stuff, like just so many TV shows and films. She was in Tammy, she was in Young Sheldon as the teacher, and I'm just looking at this, and she was even in Big Little Lies, which, I mean, I watched that show, and I just completely, she was in 6 episodes, and I just do not remember her. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, she's great in the film as well. She's very funny. Everyone in the film is funny. It's just a great cast. But yeah, that's just more of a technical thing I wanted to point out in case anyone in the comments, if there are any comments on this video, is like, hey, you forgot to mention this. It's like, okay, I mentioned it, now you can go screw off or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I guess I will just segue into the outro right now. This wasn't a very smooth thing to do, but I wanted to mention it, so yeah. So this is where I tell you that if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and share, and if you come across the channel for the first time, why not subscribe, as, well, I mean, if you like this video, then chances are you might like my future videos and whatnot. I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, subscribe, and peace.